Hi, Rich.
Hi, Jack. How are you doing this fine day? Shovel Knight is a Nintendo Entertainment System game that has recently been released on the PlayStation 4, and it's a Nintendo Entertainment System game even though it was never released on the Nintendo Entertainment System.
It's a platformer. It's an action platformer, and I describe it as DuckTales the game by way of Mega Man with a Mario 3 map. Shovel Knight is currently available for PCs, PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita, Nintendo Wii U, Nintendo 3DS, and soon to be available on the Xbox One. It's on everything.
Except for the NES, which is kind of ironic when you think about it. People think pixel art's a thing that people like to either love or bitterly complain about. Mm-hmm. And this goes one step beyond pixel art into straight out, this is just like, we're gonna make this is just an old game.
The first time I played this game was on the PC using an NES USB pad.
Really? So you went all in.
And it felt great. I think the only two things we can talk about with this game are gameplay and art. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's so simple, right? It's an NES platformer. So let's talk about the gameplay.
He's a Shovel Knight, and the gimmick is he's a knife that uses a shovel, not a sword. And for some reason, that lets him pogo up and down on enemies' heads with the shovel.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's a fun mechanic.
It's very fun. And then that mechanic also lends itself to the platforming of the game, where you have to traverse large areas, just pogo jumping. In fact, like, I use the pogo jump as an attack 90% of the time. I rarely just poke someone with my shovel. I always jump on them.
It's much more dangerous trying to poke somebody with a shovel. You try and do that because it's this relatively slow move, and you're probably going to get attacked by the boss before you get that hit in. Whereas if you're jumping, you're doing the pogo jump, it's a lot easier just to land the hit and more fun.
It is. It's very true.
And then there's the Mega Man thing where the big focus of the game is beating the bosses.
Right.
The Order of No Quarter. I fucking love their name.
Yeah, and much like Mega Man, every boss's level has its own unique theme to it. Plague Knight, and he's like the chemical guy, and there's Spectre Knight, there's ghosts in his level.
Yeah, but they're all kind of vaguely night themed.
Yeah.
It's like instead of fighting the 7 evil robots that Dr. Wily built, you're fighting the 7 evil knights that the Enchantress gathered together.
Yeah. And it's adorable.
Dear lady? Oh.
And it's a deer lady.
Oh. Groan. Groan.
Every time you die, you drop bags of gold. And then you have the option to try to pick them up again in that very dangerous area, which is always fun. And you use that gold to buy upgrades for your shovel, or new armor, or upgrades to your health, or upgrades to your magic meter.
Various things.
Various things.
I mean, it seems like they love Mega Man. I mean, he's fucking blue, for Christ's sakes. He's a little blue guy that fights the 6 evil themed enemies.
Yeah.
And gains power-ups on the way. I'm just speculating. But the map is more than a little Mario 3 inspired. More than a little. Though I do love the optional boss battles that pop up.
Super fun.
These little guys walking around in the world, and you walk on the tile, and it's a boss fight. It's a boss fight you didn't know about.
It's the Hammer Brothers, is what it is. And they do the same thing where they kind of randomize their positions between each stage, and you can choose to fight them or not. For this review specifically, we both played the PlayStation version.
Yeah.
I played it on both the PS4 and the Vita, and you played it on the PS4. The PlayStation version does feature a unique Kratos battle.
Which I couldn't even find it. I tried to find him. I couldn't find him.
Pretty sneaky. It's a little hard to find him, but once you do, it's a really fun boss battle. You get a little reward that I don't necessarily think is worth it, but the Kratos battle is really cool. Much like Zelda 2, there are little towns.
Yeah.
You talk to little people in towns, and they give you kind of backstory of the game. They give you hints. There's little secret areas. It's everything anything you've ever played in any NES game.
See, what I'm trying to wrap my head around with this game is the whole nostalgia factor.
Sure.
Because it's obvious that this game is meant for it's intended just to be a NES love letter.
Yes.
There's references to Mario 3. There's the Zelda 2 towns. There's Mega Man influences. There's the DuckTales hop.
Mm-hmm. The question I'll pose to you is like, what is the difference between a clone and an homage?
Right.
The answer is time. Right.
The answer is intent. Ooh. A clone is trying to cash in on the success of something else. They're going to say, me too, I'm going to make something just like that. I'm going to make just as much money as they did.
Right.
An homage is, I really love that thing, and I want to make something like it because I loved it so much. And NES games aren't exactly the most marketable thing right now. They haven't made one in 30 years. So obviously, this was made with love for the Nintendo Entertainment System.
When you bring up things like nostalgia, the question that came to my mind was, if this came out in the heyday of the NES, if this came out competing with Mario 3, would it be remembered? Maybe not.
I'm going to say I think it would.
You think?
Yeah, because it takes everything that was great about those great games and it uses them.
Oh, sure, but I think at the time, it would have been considered a clone. Like, it would have just been considered another platformer in a different setting. Think about all of the platformers we had back then.
This is true. I'm wondering how I would feel about this game as it came out today if you could suck the nostalgia out of it. Like if you could remove the pixel art and the NES-ness of it, and if you replace that with like modern day pre-rendered 3D sprites,
sure,
would this be as enjoyable? Does this game need the nostalgia to be good?
I think that's a great question. Is like, what if you take the nostalgia away from this game? Is it still a good game? So what I did is I got children to play it. Mm-hmm. I gathered a group of kids, all 10 and under, and just had them play Shovel Knight and asked them about it while they were playing it. And overwhelmingly, they loved it. They loved the fact that you're a knight with a shovel. They loved all the bosses. Like days later, they were drawing pictures of them and like making little Lego sets with the guys. The gameplay, which is a little too hard for some of the younger ones. Specifically, my 7-year-old had a difficult time with some of the later stages. Yeah.
As somebody who grew up on the NES, I think I could handle Shovel Knight at 7. I can handle Punch Out at 7. I can handle Shovel Knight at 7.
It's a different time, and the thing that struck me most is like I've played games, I've played platformers with him before. Like I've played Rayman Origins, and I've played like the new Super Mario Brothers, right? And those games have a very unique child-friendly mechanic where at any point, if you're playing 2-player, the child can go in a little bubble and pass over anything that is too difficult for them. And you as the adult who know how to play can keep moving in the level, but so the kid can feel safe.
Yeah, yeah.
Shovel Knight doesn't do that. Shovel Knight's an old school hard game. So there were these parts where he got really frustrated, like especially figuring out how to pogo hop. That was very difficult for him to understand. But eventually he made it through the first stage of Shovel Knight, and the look of achievement on his face is something that like every gamer knows, and like as a gamer dad, it's just like, yeah, now you understand why we play games.
Boom.
A boom.
That guy's really easy.
He talked about it all night. Like, like for him, beating the Black Knight and making it through that level all by himself was huge, and that reflected in how he feels about the game. Like, he never talked about the Mario game. He never talked about Rayman the same way he talks about Shovel Knight.
Jack, before he was able to beat the first stage in Shovel Knight on his own, before that,
Yeah.
how did it feel to have no respect for your child? How did that feel to watch him float by in that bubble and just have nothing but shame in your heart?
It's tough raising a noob.
Did you go to like a My Kid's a Noob support group?
My kid got wrecked. Anonymous.
My kid got pwned.
We started playing Super Mario Brothers, and he went left. I don't even know. So nostalgia kind of rolls.
What?
What? For us as older gamers, we see the nostalgia.
Yeah.
And that is like icing on the gaming cake. But for someone who's fresh to it, they don't care about pixel art. They don't care that the soundtrack is compatible with original NES units. They don't care that this is referencing a Mario 3 thing. All they see is the game, and the game is solid.
It's hard for me to put myself in a modern day kid's place playing this though, because when I was young, the NES was state of the art. That was as good as your game could look back then. You know, today I'm assuming a kid can go from playing Ori in the Magic Forest, which, you know, looks a lot sharper than Shovel Knight, a little bit. And then you go to Shovel Knight.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's not something I can relate to.
So when we were kids, we never saw the pixels. We saw Mario. We saw Mega Man. That's all that mattered. And I think modern kids are seeing the exact same thing. They don't see Shovel Knight as a tiny pixel man. They see a knight with a shovel. And that's all that matters. Oh, guys.
What? You jump on his head? Oh, this is totally DuckTales!
Oh my god, this is great. This is great. Yay! Shovel Knight!
I can't get my head out of the nostalgia to figure out if the game itself is really exceptionally good, or if when I'm playing it, if it's just those warm, fuzzy feelings of playing Mega Man when I was a kid.
And if it is, does it matter?
Yeah, ultimately that's where I end up. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I enjoyed the game, and I don't know if it's because it's a good game, or because of the nostalgia factor, or because of a mixture of both. It's probably a mixture of both. However you slice it, I did enjoy the game.
Okay.
The question is whether or not you need to be an old man who grew up with a NES to fully enjoy it. And I don't know the answer to that because I am an old man who grew up with a NES, and there is no control group.
With the 5 kids that I played the game with, they enjoyed it, and they have never played an NES game. They're not old enough to be nostalgic for anything, except for breast milk, I guess. I can divorce myself a little bit from the nostalgia, and I find the game to be fun. It's light, you know, it's a nice light challenge as a grown-ass man, but it's fun. That's all that matters. It's fun and it's cute. It's adorable.
It is. I think that kind of ended up being my recommendation, or not.
Yeah,
So
it was a little
How do we
bit
wrap
of
this up?
Yeah.